Hello friends, welcome to YR Today. On this channel, we regularly share the latest news and spoilers from American TV shows. So, let's get into today's important update. YNR just proved Victor still doesn't understand why Nikki left. Photo credit, JPI Studios. On The Young and the Restless, June 1st, Victor proved that he still doesn't understand why Nikki left him. He keeps asking her to choose between him and Jack, failing to know the error of his ways. Not taking accountability will only push Nikki away. Key takeaways. Victor views Nikki's concerns about his vendettas and schemes as a lack of support for the Newman family. To Victor, any relationship with his bitter rival, Jack, is unforgivable. Nikki left Victor because she could no longer tolerate his extreme tactics. Victor's core disconnect, control versus compassion. On Monday's episode, Victor, Eric Braeden, once again demanded that Nikki, Melody Thomas Scott, choose between him and Jack, Peter Bergman. He failed to understand why Nikki left him in the first place. Nikki didn't leave Victor because of Jack. She left him because of his extreme tactics to regain control of Newman Enterprises. Nikki no longer co-signed Victor's schemes involving business and his enemies. Nikki has gotten migraines over it, which is too hard for YNR to ignore. But Victor sees Nikki's concerns as a lack of support. To him, anyone who challenges his conscience is committing an unforgivable act. Victor kicked Nikki out multiple times because she refused to back down. This scene proved Victor's disconnect. He's focused on control instead of compassion. Victor continues to treat loyalty as a test. This latest demand proved that Victor still doesn't understand that he's in the wrong. Nikki's tired of Victor's cycle of ultimatums. Nikki grew tired of Victor's ultimatums. YNR viewers have seen this cycle play out repeatedly over the years. Victor's pride and need for control override his love for Nikki. By not taking accountability, Victor fails to see the big picture. He won't admit his faults, especially since he doesn't think he's in the wrong. His bitterness towards Nikki will continue to push her out of his life. Victor's deep-seated psychological conditioning equates love with submission and control. Rather than seeing her departure as a cry for emotional respect and support, Victor sees it as an act of defiance that must be subdued. Victor's actions and hardline bargaining stance make it undeniable that he remains blind to Nikki's perspective. By turning Nick's, Joshua Morrow, drug overdose into an opportunity to bargain with Nikki, Victor proved that he sees his wife as a pawn on his chessboard. He treated her as a concession he could extract while outmaneuvering his rivals, including Jack. Victor missed the point that Nikki seeks emotional safety, not a victory in a power struggle. Will Nikki finally realize the truth and leave Victor? YNR just proved Victor still doesn't understand why Nikki left. For decades, Victor Newman has built an empire on power, control, and an unwavering belief that he always knows what is best for the people he loves. On The Young and the Restless, that confidence has often been portrayed as one of his greatest strengths. Yet recent developments suggest something much deeper and more troubling. Victor may still not understand the real reason Nikki once walked away from him. The latest storyline has reignited questions about the foundation of Victor and Nikki's relationship, exposing old wounds that never truly healed. While Victor continues to frame their conflicts as misunderstandings, Nikki's past actions tell a very different story. The heartbreaking reality is that Nikki never left because she stopped loving Victor. She left because she felt unseen, unheard, and trapped beneath the weight of Victor's need to control every aspect of her life. Recent episodes have highlighted this disconnect with remarkable clarity. Time and again, Victor has stepped into situations believing he is protecting his family. He interferes in relationships, manipulates outcomes behind the scenes, and justifies every questionable decision as an act of love. In Victor's mind, his actions are necessary. He sees himself as the guardian of the Newman legacy. The problem is that Nikki has heard this explanation before. For Nikki, the issue was never Victor's desire to protect his loved ones. It was his refusal to trust them. Every time Victor makes a decision for someone instead of with them, he reinforces the very behavior that pushed Nikki away in the first place. The latest conflict serves as a perfect example. Rather than respecting boundaries, Victor once again inserted himself into matters that were not his to control. His actions may have been motivated by concern, but the result was the same. Feelings were ignored. Choices were taken away. Trust was damaged. What makes this storyline particularly compelling is how it forces viewers to revisit the long history between Victor and Nikki. Their romance has survived countless obstacles, from betrayals and misunderstandings to family feuds and personal tragedies. Through it all, one pattern has remained remarkably consistent. Victor often believes that being right is more important than listening. That flaw has repeatedly created cracks in their marriage. Nikki has spent years trying to explain that partnership requires mutual respect. Yet Victor frequently falls back into old habits whenever he feels threatened or challenged. The saddest part is that Victor genuinely believes he is helping. That belief makes the situation even more tragic because it prevents him from seeing the damage he causes. Instead of recognizing why Nikki becomes frustrated, Victor tends to focus on the outcome he was trying to achieve. If his intentions were good, he assumes his methods should be forgiven. But relationships do not work that way. Intentions matter, but actions matter too. The recent episodes illustrate this perfectly. Nikki's reactions are not those of someone questioning Victor's love. She knows he loves her. The real issue is whether he respects her enough to treat her as an equal partner rather than someone who needs constant guidance. Fans have watched Nikki evolve tremendously over the years. She is no longer the insecure young woman who once depended on Victor's strength. She has built her own identity, overcome enormous personal struggles, and established herself as one of Genoa City's most resilient figures. Yet Victor often interacts with her as though she still needs saving. That dynamic creates tension because it clashes with the woman Nikki has become. Every time Victor dismisses her perspective or overrides her judgment, he unintentionally sends the message that he values his own instincts more than hers. The irony is impossible to ignore. Victor fears losing the people he loves, but his controlling behavior often pushes them away. The more he tightens his grip, the more resistance he encounters. It is a cycle that has defined many of his relationships, not just with Nikki but also with his children. This latest chapter appears designed to confront Victor with that reality once again. Whether he learns from it remains the biggest question. The writers seem to be building toward a moment of reckoning. Victor can no longer rely solely on grand gestures or declarations of love. If he wants to preserve the bond he shares with Nikki, he may need to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. That process will not be easy. Victor Newman is a man who has spent his entire life believing that strength means taking control. Admitting that control can sometimes be a weakness would require a fundamental shift in how he views both himself and his relationships. For Nikki, the stakes are equally high. She has devoted years to fighting for their marriage, but patience has limits. Every relationship reaches a point where repeated mistakes become impossible to ignore. Nikki's recent frustrations suggest she is growing tired of having the same conversation over and over again. That does not mean the end is near for this iconic couple. If anything, the storyline highlights why Victor and Nikki remain one of daytime television's most fascinating pairings. Their love is genuine, but love alone does not solve every problem. Sometimes the greatest challenge is understanding the person standing beside you. Right now, Victor appears to be failing that test. He sees Nikki's reactions but not the emotions driving them. He hears her words but misses their deeper meaning. Most importantly, he continues to interpret conflicts through his own perspective rather than hers. That is why this storyline feels so powerful. It is not about a single disagreement or isolated incident. It is about years of unresolved patterns finally coming into focus. The show is reminding viewers that relationships are shaped not just by dramatic moments but by everyday choices. Victor keeps choosing control. Nikki keeps asking for trust. Until those two positions find common ground, the same problems will continue to resurface. As the young and the restless moves forward, all eyes will be on whether Victor finally understands the lesson Nikki has been trying to teach him for years. Love is not about making decisions for someone else. It is about respecting their ability to make decisions for themselves. If Victor can embrace that truth, their relationship may emerge stronger than ever. If he cannot, the latest conflict could become another painful reminder that even the great Victor Newman cannot protect a marriage from the consequences of failing to listen. And that may be the most important lesson YNR is trying to deliver. Nikki never left because she doubted Victor's love. She left because love without trust, respect, and understanding can only carry a relationship so far. The question now is whether Victor finally understands that, or whether history is preparing to repeat itself once again.